and we will welcome the Water Management Zone Committee's update report, item 6. And normally I think you're all happy to come to the table together, or do you want to come individually? Welcome, Arapata. From Christchurch, West Melton.
Yep. Oh, okay.
You're not you. Not a brother.
Right.
Kia ora tātou. Whakapūken te tātou o te mātauranga o ngā whakaaro. Here ai ki te tangi o te pipi wharauro. Kui whiti ora. E te tea mana, te mea, nā whanauka, nā kai kauniheri o te tauni o Karaitiana, nau mai, piki mai, kaki mai, o tō tātou whari te tohona, e te ana ki te whenua o te hapua naitua huri, nau mai, tauti mai. Kia ora tātou. Firstly, I'd like to thank the 5 community groups that spoke before in support of the partnership. I know I have got it on the agenda, number 6, I think, but I'm just going to close off on it now. Just to support everything I've said, and also thanking them for their support for our initiative. I think it can be summed up quite easily in a well-known whakatauki that our Canterbury Crusaders have taken on board. He mano, he whero, ka oti o te mahi. With the chief's resources and the people's resources, the work will be done much quicker. And in this case, the chief's Christchurch City Council for Environment Canterbury. So, kia ora. They have the people on the ground, the resources out there, the desire, the passion, the want to do it. They just need resourcing. Yeah. And it was really interesting, those 3 C's. It's so true. There's so many different networks out there. They just need to be brought together under this umbrella in an ad hoc way so that they can coordinate their work plans and that, and share the resources and the funding accordingly. So, kia ora. So just on to the first one. We got a second letter back from the Ministry of Health regarding our initial letter to them concerning nitrate levels and the correlation connection between colorectal cancer. The first response we had from them was very ho-hum, and they kind of went around the whole kaupapa altogether. So it was really good to get a second one where they're actually going to do put some effort into some further research around that correlation between the two. The second one on there is around the Stormwater Superheroes campaign. We've got some staff there wearing them at the moment. I too was supposed to wear mine, but yeah, shirt and jacket, t-shirts. Maybe next time. So yeah, some of the key things there has been really supporting those community groups that we've had present before us. Ehutai Trust, we've been working with them, and also Haven Otakaro, and around the big one was the World Rivers Day. I think Evan touched on it, 45 community groups, 750 community workers out there doing it. The Meet in the Middle, which again was another success, although the weather didn't play its part that day and the numbers were a little bit down. And also our business awards for the Stormwater Superheroes that we presented to the businesses at our November meeting. It was a real good opportunity to acknowledge those businesses, and I think the businesses felt really they enjoyed that acknowledgement and are keen to continue the work that they've undertaken. Probably a real biggie for us at the moment, particularly with the rain that we've had over the last 2 days, again, is sedimentation from the Port Hills. We really do need to get action on that. It's just a brown silt mud at the moment. And as we've been told over the last 7 or 8 years since the inception of the CWMS, Christchurch is going to have less rain days, but they're going to be so much more intense. And I think we've been witnessing that over the last 3 or 4 years. Water tables are very high. Runoff from the Port Hills has been exaggerated from the fires recently that have lost all that ground coverage. So yeah, we need strong action from City Council Environment Canterbury to put a halt to that. And yeah, I don't need to talk about the charter again. So our focus on the new year is again around picking up on the Otu Kai Kino again. In the initial years of CWMS for Christchurch West Melton, we spent a lot of our time on the Otu Kai Kino. Just over the last couple of years, some science reports have come out around loss of invertebrates, which is they think is leading because of the high nitrate levels again. So we're just going to put our focus back on Oto Kaikino and keep that up to a agreed quality of water. Next year we'll also be looking around, oh gosh, sorry, I just lost my track. Oh, tell you what, I'll put my glasses on, Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the Port Hills is our main one, and with the Cashmere Stream, and of course Oto Kaikino. I think that pretty much sums it up with 2 minutes to spare. Cool.
We've still got the Urban Contaminants Working Group as well, that's doing a lot of work around Addington Brook.
Yes, so that plan, yeah, it's in running at the moment, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that in the book, I haven't got any notes on it. Tammy, do you want to give a quick update? Sorry.
Yeah, it's all operative now, so it's fully into the implementation.
Yeah, that's good. No, I think it's congratulations on the Stormwater Superheroes Awards. What are they? Are they certificates?
A plaque, and they got some Stormwater Superhero, what do you call them, those cloth bags that you get from the supermarkets, the sack ones,
Yes.
It's got the branding all over it.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you able to tell us what sort of measures they've taken to clean up their stormwater? Or if you can't at the moment, maybe we could just get a memo through,
Yeah.
because they've obviously been proactive and done something to significantly improve their stormwater contamination of our waterways, and I think that's really great that you're recognising that and getting a bit of momentum going and getting these industries to take some responsibility.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, yeah, it was a month ago when we did that. So just off the top of my head, a lot of it was around the Storminators that we've been trialling at Tower Junction. A number of them have been running workshops, educational workshops around capturing at point of source.
Yep.
And others like University of Canterbury and that for the science research that they've been undertaking.
Right.
But yeah, we can send the memo from last month's report.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
yeah.
know if people know what the Storminators are, but
Yeah.
they're basically filters that go inside your
Yeah, they sit on the
spouting.
downpipe, very much like the S-bend under your sink, and they have like they got mussel shells in them. The mussel shells attract the zinc in that to them, and then you just regularly unblock it, take them away, dispose of them in self-contained containers, and they go out to Bromley, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're just basically a new product that's only just hit the market, and I don't know if they're actually available for people to buy at the moment. Are they still on
Not
trial?
I'm aware of yet, no.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking at industry first and foremost, and then to
Yeah.
rural community housing.
That's great. Yanni?
Thanks. And I don't know if this is a question for staff or for the zone committee, but in the report, the Cashmere Stream Port Hills, you talk about the sediment being a major issue for the Pawaho Heka, in particular Cashmere Stream.
Mm-hmm.
You go on to talk about a few issues, and at the end of that it states some great work being undertaken as part of the fire recovery by Council Park section and as part of land drainage, but not enough action is occurring to adequately reduce sediment at source. What I'd really like to know is what are the recommendations that you could bring to us about what needs to be done to address it in terms of doing more. And I don't know whether that's a question for staff or a question for you, but I think we've had this discussion previously that when you report, when we don't get recommendations, it's quite hard for us to take action. And I'd really like to take action on this, so, it's a concern that's been raised previously, and I feel we should be doing something.
So definitely, and you're quite right, I think all the technical reports that the zone committee gets should actually be feeding through to both full councils. So we can make that happen. A lot of the concerns, issues where we can improve on, especially around development, subdivision developments, greater bunds, capturing them, also revegetating the port hills that were destroyed by the fires. That needs to be happening a lot quicker. But yeah, mainly it's around the development process when they're developing, building new housing, and there's so much impervious concrete in that as well. So,
is how do we progress this? Can you give us a list of things that you want us to do that we're not doing? Is that something that the zone committee could do, or is that something staff?
Well, we can do that via staff, yeah.
Right. So can we get a report back to the next meeting, or? I mean, I don't know. Like, I just.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
actually there already are
We've
projects.
already got them, we're just
There's
forcing-
very strict controls about building up there, and any new developments have to have their own stormwater, systems. But and you've got the sediment toolbox.
Yeah, the toolbox.
And
yeah.
of course, we've put a lot of money into plantings on the hills. Until we get those plantings, and it's very difficult. There is stuff being done, but I think it's going to take a long time. But perhaps the committee could get a memo from staff at the next meeting on everything that's being done. Not a report,
How
just a
about
memo.
how about we bring it into the next 2 monthly report, because we are doing a lot around sediment, and it's one of the priorities for the Heathcote for the comprehensive stormwater global consent. We're working in partnership with ECAN to look at the way that we police particularly developments, and but there is still quite a significant amount of replanting still to be done to recover the vegetation from the fire and things.
Yeah.
We are building some big sediments. The ones in Kashmir are proceeding, but they aren't, I don't think they're in action at the moment. You will remember we've just brought the vineyard up there, which we are slowly, and that work's progressing. And so we could bring you maybe a slightly expanded version in the next water report about the work that's been done to date, and work.
Sorry, I just want to be really clear. What I'm hearing from the zone committee,
Yeah.
who are the people that we've tasked with the expert, wisdom and community collaboration.
Poldy, we're not the experts, we're the community representatives. We're
community
resourced by
Okay,
your
look,
experts.
well, we've got an action here for this
Yeah.
committee from staff.
Information.
And if the zone committee felt of a mind, you could send us a memo just outlining what your suggestions might be for council to look at.
Things
But
that
I'm
we're
sure
not
our council
doing
staff
that we could do.
and our Environment Canterbury staff work really closely together, so they know what the programs are in place. So I'm confident that if we include the sediment control program in our next Three Waters report, in our next meeting after this, we will get the information that you want. So I'm happy to do that.
I guess what I'm trying to express is I don't want to just keep doing what we're doing,
No,
because
I know.
clearly we're hearing it's not working. I want to actually do more than what we're currently
Yep.
doing.
Well, let's find out. You want to
So,
say what we're
I
currently
want
doing
that opportunity
first.
to have that
We'll
discussion
get that
at some point.
information and then we'll bring an action. Hey, thank you, Yanni. It's really important. I know that. When do we want to bring a resolution? Is that the end of the three? The three. Okay. Thank you, Arapata. So
you got
now,
one.
Mayor.
oh, sorry, questions. Yes.
Yeah. So I was just trying to track the sequence of events in terms of when we make the decision to become a signatory to the Charter. So as I understand it, this arose out of an October workshop in 2018. It actually was adopted by your zone committee in August this year. So it's this year. And what I can't find is, did you report that to council before now, or is this the report to council where you are requesting us to become, to endorse the Charter? So is this the first time you've been back to council since August? Because I know that we've had an election in between, and that may have been a bit of a delay in the reporting framework that would have otherwise have existed.
So you're right, this is the first deputation since August. It wasn't reported in an August meeting. From memory though, there were a number of FYIs between October and August of this year. Just heads up around the potential to create this partnership agreement.
Yeah.
I think there'd been 2 deputations around.
Well, because staff have
Yeah.
been working very closely with you to
Yes.
get the charter developed, and so it has been
Exactly.
quite a collaborative process with the CCC totally endorsing the community's expression of what CCC could stand for as well. But
yes, that was interesting.
So this is the first time that it's come here, and have you also made the same recommendation to ECAN to endorse the charter? Because I noted that was your resolution.
Yeah, so that will be happening at our next one, which is probably February, because again, we haven't met because of the new council's election process.
Okay, so now I've got the time frame right. This is the first time that we as a council have considered the request to sign up to the charter.
Yep.
And I think it will be very appropriate for us to recommend that we get advice
I'll just- can you
on
put the
doing
word up?
just that. We've heard loudly and clearly, and I think it was absolutely brilliant that the community came along today to back you on this in terms of a strategy to get a matter attention at a council meeting. That is absolutely the right one.
Kia ora. Thank
So I think there'll be some wording.
Okay, that's good. Thanks, Leanne. And have the groups that made the deputation today, have they joined, or are they going to join?
Yes, they are. That's my understanding. It doesn't make sense for them to come here and support it and not be a part of it.
Yeah,
Right.
I wondered it.
Yeah.
So actually,
so we haven't canvassed. I don't believe it's been canvassed out to all of those community groups that
right,
participated originally.
because you're coming here first because we
Yes.
should be partly leading
Get the leadership.
This. Yeah,
Get the leadership structures.
Okay.
Yeah. Kia ora.
yeah. So we've got some wording up there. Are there any other questions for Arapata on the Christchurch West Melton?
Yeah, I have them.
Anne?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thanks for all the work, Liz. Just wondering, where is the stormwater superheroes? Where does the funding come from for that? How's it resourced?
My understanding is from those businesses themselves. That's in the kind. Yeah.
Oh, right. So you've got
I
funding.
think
from-
Environment Canterbury
And
put a
there was some
reasonable amount
from-
in. And there was going to be a private funder originally, but that
That
fell
hasn't
through, I
happened,
think.
yeah.
And also just in terms of getting kids involved, I mean, they love being superheroes. Is there that, opportunity, or is that happening already?
So that's part of the engagement process with schools and that, and we have a number of schools around the Ōpāwaho that are already on board. I'm pretty certain we have T-shirts their sizes, yeah. But yeah, not just children, but we get grandparents as well, so it's a very intergenerational thing, very family focused, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think all our learnings need to be intergenerational, yeah.
it's really important,
Because we
isn't it?
don't want it just happening in the classroom. You want family at home to be buying into it as well. So it's normal. Yeah,
Yeah, because part of it all is hinged on behaviour change.
It is, yeah.
It's really important. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Arapata, we'll leave the resolution till the end of the reports and we'll move to Banks Peninsula. Benita, welcome.
It's Gina Weibel. I'm the Deputy Chair.
Oh, I'm
Benita
so sorry.
wasn't able to be here today.
Gina, welcome.
The Banks Peninsula Zone Committee have been focusing on engagement and getting the community involved. So we've had a number of planting days, including at Kokorarata in Port Levy. That one was connecting the Kakanui Conservation Covenant with the planting that had already been done in the lower reaches. So that catchment is now protected from the source to the sea, ki uta ki tai. We also had a Wairewa planting day in October on the banks of the Huka Huka Tūroa stream in Little River. That was part of the Wairewa bank stabilisation project, where the stream banks are being reshaped and planted to reduce erosion and sediment loss. Sediment being a key pollutant on Banks Peninsula, and that phosphorus-rich sediment getting into Wairewa or Lake Forsyth is part of what leads to those toxic blooms in the lake. We've continued to partner with Whakaora on the Healthy Harbour Plan for Whakaraupu, Littleton Harbour, and we've held a joint meeting with them to update the public on the projects that are happening as part of that, and also held a joint stall with them. The roadside cuttings trial in the Adventure Park is progressing. This trial involves testing erosion and sediment control treatment options and plant types to reduce sediment loss from roadside cuttings. So if you're ever driving around the harbour, you'll see that there are many locations where the steep cut banks in the Lewis soils are eroding and getting into the roadside drains that feed into the waterways. It's still to be confirmed, but the Zone Committee intend to visit the Adventure Park trial site on the afternoon of February 11th before our next meeting. So councillors would be welcome to attend that if they're interested. That roadside cuttings trial is an important project for the committee. Future funding of additional sites and also any remediation that might happen to existing cuttings once the trial finishes at the end of next year is still something that, you know, it's something that we're going to try and progress next year. And we've also had a meeting for landowners in Little River. That was to cover the Wairua zip addendum, in particular the stock exclusion rules that come into effect on the valley floor in January. There was some pushback at that meeting, but it should be noted that there was a lot of consultation that was undertaken when the rules were being developed, including a lot of community-based meetings at the time. We've also had 2 meetings in Wainui with good turnout from the local community regarding a fish barrier at a weir that's in Wainui. And zone committee staff zone staff are continuing to work with residents to develop a solution to that, to get fish passage reinstated. And lastly, a highlight was a presentation from Diamond Harbour school students on the water quality monitoring that they've been doing in Orton Bradley Park on Te Wharau Stream as part of the Nature Agents program. And they've taken it one step further by creating some very professional signboards that are going to be installed at the park. So if you ever have a chance to see those, they're very impressive. And so, yeah, we're going to continue community engagement into next year, starting with a stall at the Banks Peninsula A&P show on the 18th of January. So hope to see some of you there. And lastly, I'd just like to thank Councillor Elizabeth Cunningham following her retirement for her contribution as the Environment Canterbury rep on the committee. That's all.
Wow, great report. Thank you very much. What a huge amount of work is going on. All those plantings and then working with the kids as well is fantastic. When you said there's pushback on the stock exclusions, can you explain that?
There were just some vocal people at the meeting who weren't necessarily on board with the changes. There has been a lot of work done by the Land Management Advisor for ECAN, who has been going around individual property owners to make sure that they're aware of the rules. As far as I understand, not everyone has complied with them yet. So next year there will be follow-up on that to make sure that compliance is happening. And I'm not sure, but some of the people that were vocal at that meeting were not necessarily people directly affected by those rules. It only covers a sort of small area on the lower reaches of that Little River catchment. So it's not the whole basin, it's just one area on the valley floor.
Right. Oh, well, good work getting that through. That's fantastic. Are there any questions? Banks Peninsula. Yeah. Kia ora, James.
It's the question was almost asked by the chair, and because I whakapapatu Wairewa, and so I was interested in exactly what the chair asked. Well, how do you handle that opposition to this new rule? How you said there were a lot of vocal ones there. What did you do about that? How did you placate them, if you like, address them?
The Land Management Advisor who was leading the meeting was very good, and just accepted the feedback. But at the same time, you know, those rules are in place. They've been coming for a number of years. The zip addendum was approved, several years ago, and it's just the next year that the stock exclusion rule comes into place. And when that zip addendum was developed, there was a lot of work done with the local community to make sure that everybody did have a chance to have a say. Lots of consultation, making sure that it wasn't just advertisements in the newspaper, that local contacts were used to make sure that people knew what was happening. And there were a lot of community-based events at the time. So there is confidence that people did have good opportunity to be involved when those rules were being developed. So any pushback now, there's not really anything that will happen from that, and that the rules are coming into place, and people will just need to comply with them.
And you're confident that the compliance or the enforcement is in place for that?
Yeah, so the land management advisor for Ecan does spend a lot of time in Wairua, and like I say, he has been going to each landowner that is affected to make sure that they're aware, and we'll work with them to help them comply. So there are a number of options for how they comply. It doesn't have to be a full fence. It can also just be, you know, electric wires or something like that. So it doesn't, you know, the cost is not necessarily excessive. Yeah.
Kia ora, thank you, and kia kaha.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Melanie?
Hi Gina, I was just wondering about the fish passage barrier, like, can you just explain what that is?
So that example in Wainui is a weir that was put into the stream. My understanding is it was put in to raise the level of the waterway so that an old stream channel would still continue to have water flowing through it. It was where the stream used to exit to the sea, and it flows, that old branch flows between a number of houses. So I'm not sure of the reasoning for putting it in originally, but it is there, and yeah, so there are working with the community to decide whether that weir could be removed, or whether a fish passage will be put in place so that fish can get past the weir. It's just a small structure. It's only sort of 30 centimetres high or half a metre high.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And James got a second question.
Kia ora anō, Jenna. Look, just a quick question about the planting day where you planted over 1,300 native seedlings. Good on you. Where is the Huka Huka Tūroa stream? Which one is that?
I'm not sure exactly which one. It goes through sort of where the Little River settlement is in that part of the valley. So it's not the Okuti side, but it's
It's near Western Valley Road.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's not the Okana.
No.
Right, cool. I just thought it had been renamed. That's
No,
Thank
no.
you.
Although there has been a lot of work done on the Okana as well.
And thank you very much, Gina. That's a great report, and it does show you the value of the zone committees when they're close to their communities, and you can get the information out that people need and make sure they've got it. So thank you. So now Les from the Sawa Maihora Zone Committee. Welcome.
Kia ora, Tāmuru, I'm from Tāmuru at Whāmoki. I've been on several zone committees, and kia ora James, welcome, and Pauline. We have been doing a lot of work this year on the Waikirikiri Sawan. That's one of the main tributaries to Te Waihora, and it contributes a lot of the contaminants into Te Waihora. Even though the Christchurch City Council only have a small amount of Te Waihora within their boundaries along Kaikariki Spit area, it still has an effect on the Christchurch City Council, as it does on the 6 Papataka Runanga who are governors to Te Waihora. We feel that we've got to get this mainstream sorted out very quickly if we wanted contaminants to be lowered in Te Waihora. The other main one we're working on is the Hurricane Hawesville. That is another high contaminant. We put wetlands out there and to try and lower the contaminants getting into Te Waihora. We're also working with a lot of groups around the area, mainly DOC and Southern District Council, on wetlands, putting new wetlands in. There's 2 going in, quite a large one at Snake Creek, Silver Stream Snake Creek at Coast Ford area. Another one is down at Yards Flat, or at the Yards Lagoon, at the end of L2. And there's lots of other minor ones right throughout the catchment that have been worked on work with the Living Waters people to clean up the immediate areas around Te Waihora, because I think if we don't back and support other groups, it's going to be harder for us to do it. I'll take my report as read and I'll answer any questions on it. The other thing is, because of the election, we haven't met since about August. We've had a couple of workshops. In that time, we've lost one of our co-leaders, chairs, Megan Hand. She's now gone to be a councillor. I'm near the chairperson on myself at the moment to discuss it in January, February. We've had a change in the council members at the table. Nicole Reid from Selwyn District Council, Vicky Southwolf from Air Environment Canterbury, and welcome back, and and hope we can organise our times better for you to participate next year. We've been focusing on getting out on field trips and working groups around the catchment this year, and had some very interesting ones with our partners as in Banks Peninsula and the Waimaharuri groups. We've been out on field trips with them and sharing knowledge, and that's where I think we're able to build a bit better on what we can achieve. Work with the Te Ara Kakariki program. Our members have been out and actually getting their feet and hands dirty and planting trees with that group. We put in lots, I just can't remember the numbers, but the one down at Yard Flat, it's a huge area, and the Lincoln Primary School has been the one looking after that. And I personally went out when we planted another 2,000 trees in 2 days. So that was
Wow, that's huge.
well done.
Yeah.
That's the past, now we're to the future. We're hoping to work closer with councils and our partners in monitoring, more vigorous monitoring of our waterways. Monitoring back to the source and educate the source of the monitoring. And in all the industries, as in automobile, the building industry, the farming industries, if we don't include all the industries, instead of concentrating at the moment on the dairy farming are coming in line, okay, they can't do nothing about over-allocation of water and overstocking. That's something that's in the past that you can't allow to happen. It's happened, so we can only work with them. And they are coming on board a lot better now with the FDPs and so forth. So it's going to be an interesting spot to see what other industries they are contaminating, and not only in the rural areas but in the urban areas as well, as in Rolleston, Lincoln and other large areas. And I think the Christchurch West Bolton are also going to be looking at that type of thing as well.
Oh, thank you, Les. So is your committee doing any work or research into other options for dairy farmers to help them to diversify if they did want to reduce their numbers?
We only can suggest.
Yeah.
To actually do research, no, we just haven't got the time to do that. We are not off that professional level to educate farmers how many stock they should have on board, how much water they should. That's not really our job. Mm-hmm. We can only recommend back to the three councils, Selwyn District Council, Christchurch and Environment Canterbury. We only can recommend back, which we do at times.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Anne?
Thank you, Les, and I do hope that I can become more involved, with our timetabling getting sorted. That would be great. You mentioned the Hiratini River, the Horswell River, and do you know if there's much work going on compared to somewhere like the Opawaho in terms of people involved in working with that river, particularly as it's feeding into the Te Wahora, into Lakewood Te Wahora?
Yes, there's one group is set up, and I just can't remember the name of it, from Taitapu. And they are working in, and I think it involved a lot of the schools, the Ladbroke School and the Broadfield schools and things like that, working alongside the Huratini. It's an interesting, tonight, a dairy farmer just along Hudson's Road there having a open farm tonight and along with Ravensdown to work on the problem with them, because that farm does drain back into Huratini as well. So, yes, there is a lot of work being done outside of the zone committee. Well, Wakaroa Te Wahora is another one that's doing a heck of a lot of work.
Yes, because you also work with the Te Wahora Co-Governance Committee as well.
Well, we are partners to the co-governance from Tamutu, but we don't. I'm not a representative from the co-governance, so I really can't speak on their behalf.
But like you say, it's all collaboration.
They have been, we've been in abeyance lately to sort internal problems out. I think they've had a couple of meetings in a couple of months ago, but haven't had no feedback from that yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Liz.
You're welcome.
And thanks, Gina. So we have a recommendation on the screen here. Would anyone like to move that? Sarah?
Additional resolution about the sediment.
Seconded, Andrew. I'm going to bring that into the Three Waters report. Oh, the sediment. No, we'll put a note, which will be happy with a note.
Well, yeah, you've got a note under the community partnership, which is great. I just think we should have a note around the sediment and what we're requesting staff to do.
Well, that's a different note. We're noting the recommendation and we're seeking action from it. So if we could put a note, just a note underneath the resolution, that the committee requests a section, information be included in the next Three Waters report on the sediment controls program in the Port Hills. In the next Three Waters report.
So my understanding is two things. We were going to ask staff to kind of give us the information about what we're currently doing, and then we were also going to ask the zone committee for things that they would like us to do. That
we have asked the zone committee.
And just under three, just for the sake of clarification, there is no formal recommendation from the committee for us to sign the thing, as I understand it.
In the Port Hills.
Yes, they did that in August.
In August.
So, well, look, we're just going to bring some advice back at the next meeting, and we'll take it from there.
So the recommendation to become a community waterways, to sign this, to be a signatory, is not, I'm not seeing what that is in our actual report.
Well, it's on page 10.
Okay.
The committee recommended that Christchurch City Council and Environment Canterbury become signatories. So I guess they're leaving it up to us to be proactive about that. They're wanting us to be helping to lead this. So I'm happy with this.
Maybe you should just make number 3 split it into 2, so that at directs it becomes 4. Direct staff to report back to the next meeting of the Three Waters Infrastructure and Environment Committee with advice and any implications to signing up to the Community Waters Partnership Charter.
That's great.
I don't think that Yanni's right, like that, you know, if it's in a paragraph saying that the committee also recommended that we sign up, then actually in the beginning of their report to us, there should be a recommendation saying,
there should have been.
Yeah, but it only says receives the report and notes the work, whereas it should be also in the recommendations on their report considers signing up. So we should, whoever does those reports.
Well, we can we'll feed that back to
I mean, it's in the body of the
Yeah.
report, but it's not
Yeah,
in the recommendations from the
understand,
committee.
But we can feed that back, but we can also be proactive and ask to sign up anyway, can't
Well,
we?
the staff report could have highlighted that at the beginning as well, instead of, because it didn't even mention it in the staff report. It just talked about the Canterbury Water Management Strategy and the zone implementation programs.
But I think we've previously had a discussion about the water zone reports. Actually, it would be really good where they want us to do stuff to have formal recommendations come through.
Yeah, Sarah just said that.
Yep, we're right.
No, exactly.
No,
what she said was around this specific one, but there's also been other cases as well.
Yep, yes, so we need to, we'll feed that back to them offline. All right, so we have a mover.
Well, can you actually, I mean, because I'd like these reporting frameworks to be really well done. You know, I'm not, you know, because, I mean, we're still developing a new template for the way that these reports come to council, not the zone committees, but all reports, so that we're actually very explicit and clear in recommendations, what we're agreeing to, and maybe notes the work of the zone committees, and then underneath that, say, requests, so put a new one, requests that zone committees in making recommendations to the council highlight those recommendations.
Or perhaps formalise them into
or
recommendations.
Formalise in making recommendations, formalise those recommendations in the resolution to be considered by council.
Making recommendations, take out, highlight those recommendations and just say formalise, that's good.
We need so many recommendations.
No. Request that zone committees
Resolution to council.
formalise any recommendations in the resolutions to be considered by council.
I think they probably did their reports, but it's the cover, it's an overall staff report.
Yeah.
So it's,
And that council staff, the council staff include these for consideration at the council meeting. Because the staff recommendation is that the committee receive the information in the water zone management update reports.
And put council/committee meeting perhaps.
yes,
Yeah.
because it's coming to committee,
Yeah.
council.
Great, thanks Leanne, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
All right,
Good work.
so, been moved to second, is there any discussion? Anne?
It's just a question about what kind of advice, what kind of advice would we be wanting from staff in a report? I mean, I think the general feel, I mean, I can't imagine no one would want, that none of us would not want to sign up. So what sort of advice would we need in terms of implications? I'm just wondering about timing, whether we should just get on with it. Do we need a report?
Well, I think it gives us a bit more comfort to get advice from staff, particularly about any future financial implications or what we're being called on to do as being a partner in the Charter. I think it's probably a sensible approach rather than just diving in and going, yep. Is that, would you be fair
I think
to
so.
say?
You need to know financial and legal implications of it. Look, we haven't been through there. There was a recommendation, as was presented today, around potential funding that it would do. I think there was $1 million at one time at the LTP. So I think you need all that advice before you make that decision on whether to sign. So that's what it is, a normal report.
Yanni?
I just want to speak in support of the recommendations. I think it's very prudent to get the staff advice back. I can tell you as a city council, we have signed numerous MOUs, numerous charters, and actually what we need to ensure is if we're going to sign up to something, it actually means something and makes a difference and creates action, rather than a sort of signing up to something because it feels good and then not having really clear outcomes in terms of either resourcing or commitment. So I'm really keen to get the advice that if we do sign up to it, it actually means something and does something rather than just makes us feel good. So I really support getting the advice back, and also, you know, I think there is a bit of confusion over the comprehensive stormwater discharge consent and the community waters partnership, and it would be really good to just clarify that. But I also endorse getting the information on the sediment. You know, since the Port Hills fires, I've been increasingly concerned at the sediment coming down through the river, and I just think, I know we've done a lot of work and there's been a huge effort, but I just wonder if we should be doing more, and I think it's been reinforced by the zone committee today. So I really welcome getting that advice back. I think getting it in time, especially before we go into, although it's stormy today, hopefully winter, where we may see even more of an impact. So I would welcome that. But I think, you know, it's really good to see the work that is being done in our communities with the zone committees around the importance of our water. And I, you know, just wanted to acknowledge all that good work that is going on, even though we've still got a long way to go.
Well, thanks, Yanni. So I totally agree with what you said, and it shows you the benefit of having these committees come to report to us. And I think that what's happening, particularly the zone committees are pulling the community groups together, and this charter is actually formalising that collaboration. And if they're asking us to help lead it, and I think that's, and Environment Canterbury will as well, I'm sure they'll come on board. And this gives it all a lot of kudos and impetus and more power. And I think the deputations we had this morning were really uplifting, actually, and just showing us how many voluntary hours are going in and how many people so care about our water. It's a huge responsibility on us to do our very best to clean up the historical issues that we've got, but also go forward and make sure we're dealing with less contaminants going in. And we can do that with our infrastructure. We've put a stormwater filter at Bells Creek, but they're incredibly expensive, and if we could put them all over the city, we would. But we need to rely on volunteers and communities getting in and helping us. And also a huge, as I said before, a huge part of it is behaviour change. And so we've got to start driving that, and we can change our world. So on that note, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.